Do you think that expansion and growth is always meant to be hard, or is it meant to be easy? Welcome back to the show, Eternal Expansion, where anything and everything can expand you. So, I have been uh, playing with this idea the last few days of where one of my favorite questions I ask the people that I interview is, what is your biggest expansion moment? And a lot of these expander moments happen at like very intense, not so great situations or scenarios. Like expansion is this thing where like it can be really just tough and like one of maybe sometimes the most painful parts of our lives or like the most upheaval or chaotic times. Like we look back at it and you're like, whoa, that expanded me. That was intense, but I also like never want to do that again. And I've also had moments, and people say that different expansion moments have been really good things, powerful things, travel, love. Like, I think it can be a mix of both. And I have had over like the last year, my personal expansion moments have been mostly of the good kind. And it's the kind that where I'm traveling and meeting new people and I'm expanded in these like really beautiful ways, looking at, being in these beautiful places and all these different things. But then now I find myself in an expansion moment where it is the opposite, where things are feeling like there's an expansion happening on the other side, which obviously because we are eternally expanding, hence my name. But I find myself definitely in this season of life currently as the seasons change. And I don't know if you're feeling this way too, but definitely as seasons start to change, you can feel like your inner worlds are kind of changing. Your moods and emotions and thoughts can kind of change with the outside seasons. And sometimes we forget that this is a natural part of the process, a natural part of being on Earth. And we can call it seasonal depression, but really it's just honoring the different phase that we're going into of, starting to be more into hibernation and slowing down and recharging and a different section of life, a different part of expansion. And I feel like this is happening simultaneously in the same kind of spot where then now I'm reflecting at what I'm doing, what I'm focusing on, where I have given a lot of my time and attention with people that I have recently dated or things that I find myself being busy or distracted and just drained. Like I've had a lot going on with travel and visiting family, and those have all been great. But it's those moments where like I find myself now feeling so low battery and slap that on with the weather change of it being a little bit colder and all these things where I'm just like, oh, this is feeling a little dense and I feel uncomfortable and I feel like I want to just hop away to the tropics. And I sense and I feel myself like wanting to get out of it, like wanting to leave, like wanting to go somewhere else, wanting to switch it up, right away. And now I'm thinking to myself, there's such beauty and magic in staying where this kind of stuckness is, or kind of staying where you're feeling that inner resistance and be like, okay, obviously this is a very layered thing. Like there's lots of things where you have to leave and it's better to leave. But right now, I find that kind of growth or expansion period is going to be me in this moment in time, in this winter period, in actual winter, and also winter period of my life to see what's going to be birthed from this. And now I get to really start to begin to focus on where my actual focus is and where has it been and where do I have to kind of bring back um, the different priorities and the different practices in my life to continue on the path. And it is a lot about directing our energy. And if we are not directing our focus and our energy and the direction that we want to go, something else is going to take us on a different wave. We're just kind of going to float through life a little bit, and we don't really know where that's going to go. It just kind of happens. And we don't want life to just happen to us. We want to be a co-creator. We are co-creating, but we want to be a part of this. So I'm finding this resistance within myself currently within work, within, right now I'm still a travel nurse at the same contract that I had landed here in St. Louis. So I have extended through there, staying here until February 2/2. So there's something pretty powerful about that ending date. But it's almost like this is this on the edge of feeling like things are completing, but they're not really completing. I feel energies within myself, different patterns, different thoughts, different doubts, kind of completing in themselves. Right. And it's not like that. Like sometimes when we feel that, life is also doing that too. So it's like it would make sense for me to feel like things are completing when maybe my contract was completing, or when I was moving, or when you are like making an outside ending of things, like an ending of a relationship or whatever. But I don't really have any of those things physically, like in the physical world happening. It's almost like an energy that I feel within myself of like things are completing, a cycle feels like it's completing. And it feels like I really need to honor this aspect of myself, of really laying down other parts of me that I fully haven't let go. Different things that I have treasured. So one of those things that have popped up was my house that I had in New York, and we called our New York house Dreamland. And I have had instances where the word Dreamland has come up in song, has come up in conversation. And this just happened to me last night, where someone sent me a song, and it was a song that had Dreamland in it. And I just started to bawl, like straight up cry, just because the energy of the house and the memories and all these things that I still feel very attached to, and longing for, and miss a little bit, and just have a lot of love and good memories from it. And I'm like, whoa, there's a lot here that I didn't realize that I still need to release, and to really help that closure or ending of the chapter really feel closed. I'm like, something's still open and something is still very raw there for me. Relationships, dreams, plans, wants, and all these different things that I feel like I had wanted, I had wanted, and where now that is not, it's no longer something that I do want. But I haven't fully released the energy around those things, places, or people. And I can feel my future wants, or my future desires, or creations, or manifestations of things now that I am focused on, or would like to be focused on. And the energy can't fully move in our momentum towards those things if we're still really hanging on to different threads in the past. And honestly, I just didn't think that was a thing, that I still had cords and strings and attachments towards these different, chapters of my life. And it's almost like this official death and rebirth. And I just absolutely love that saying of, life, death, life. And I have it tattooed. I have that as a focus for myself, to really put to bed things that are closed, so that you could fully rebirth yourself. And yeah, I just sense that there is just a lot of completion, ending, closing of the books, energy around certain memories, aspects, and things of myself recently. And I didn't really realize that they were still open. So I'm going to do a ceremony for myself. I'm going to write a letter, and have a little ceremony of, releasing all of these things. And what's funny is that I've had a few people from my past reach out to me from years ago. And I'm like, this is also really interesting. And I'd be interested to see like if any of you are having this, like if people are coming back up from your past, are you sensing, are you reminiscing in different things, or and I think holidays can be quite nostalgic anyways. So that could be part of it. But I'm really seeing how, that the endings of things haven't quite ended yet. And so I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting that they're reaching out to me after like years had gone by. And I'm like, I wonder what was there, what was left open for that to come through. And that's like another thing that has come to my forefront of like, okay, obviously this past hasn't fully closed. And if you still have that door open, the next door can't come open. And so I'm in this in between, I hate to say in between energy because it's not the present is now. But what I feel is this cocoon time of St. Louis. And I feel like it's been this cocooning of even the place that I live feels very easy to hermit in and cozy in and just really dive deep within myself. And I haven't fully let myself do that. I've still been trying to do other things. And it needs so much to us focus on just the chapter at hand and allowing the other chapters to be closed and not to force open a new chapter. So within work, circling back to that, I find myself now realizing again, being like, damn, I'm in this cycle of doing something that I don't fully feel called to do. And I'm doing it because it's convenient, it's easy, I'm good at it, it's financially smart. And I'm in the middle of this contract and being like, you know what? This is something that I don't know if I want to keep doing. I don't know when it's going to end. And that's just something, you're allowing the new chapter to come about. But it's also something where you can really look at not look at yourself, but it's in the expansion, I think, in the periods that we have those questions and we allow ourselves to feel those questions. And most days I feel fine about things, but this last week I have been through it. It's been a really difficult few days at work. And if you relate to this of also being able to, or having to do a job, or having to live in a place or live with people, or you're not in your most ideal scenario, like you're not in the spot that you want to manifest, you're not in the reality that you want to create, like you're in this kind of sludge of existing in a plane or in a job, in a situation that you have to keep doing, or that we think that we have to keep doing, but it's not like what we want to do. And first of all, it's honoring those feelings, but we have to recognize those feelings in order to realize and be honest with ourselves to be like, okay, if this isn't it, what is, So I'm in this now of like, okay, I can look and be really, I can have different emotions towards this and different perspectives of my situation or of your situation. And one perspective can be like, you know what, I hate my job. I hate doing this, and 9 to 5 and the matrix, and you can't escape it, and you're working for the man, and all these different aspects we can mentally be in, and we can live in that. It's a completely different energy to live in that. I get that. It's easy to be roped into that, but we can also simultaneously look at the situation as this can also fully be an expander for me. I know more now that this is not what I want. This is not what I want. So how can this fully launch my expansion into be like, all right, if I don't want to keep doing this for the X amount of years, or another year goes by, or another few months or whatever, if I don't want to keep doing it in this way, then what do I want to do? And we can live the majority of our lives in this indecision of staying where we're at because we can't fully decide what we're going to do next. And I am fully guilty of this because I have been terrified in the past to make a decision or to make a different choice, and fear that like I won't like that anymore. But then I don't give myself the opportunity to figure that out. So if you don't fully decide on what you're willing to try next, you'll still kind of linger in the space that you currently are in, that you still don't technically love. Like there's something about it where you're just like, this isn't it. But then you don't also let yourself try something else on fully. You just revert back to the same thing. So this is where I have like reflected back in with myself with travel nursing, because I have had such I've just had such opinions and thoughts and dis-ease, incongruence of being in healthcare and the type of way that I am. And I have had these same thoughts and feelings towards how we heal and how we, provide medicine and care. And a lot of the things that I do day to day, I don't necessarily believe in, which is a really interesting place to be, because nothing is in full alignment if I'm doing something that I actually really don't want to be doing. And that's kind of like a hard pill for me to swallow. And it's like something that I'm still currently digesting. And I don't fully, again, know what's going to be after this or what I could do differently. I'm in this exploration and kind of even more of a deeper surrender of allowing something to show me what's next, but also know that I'm part of that direction and focus, and I am part of that decision to just make the next move and the next decision that is best for that. And I just want to offer some sort of encouragement, or just recognition of like, if you're in this, if you are also in a job right now that you don't fully, that you feel like is sucking the life out of you, like to some degree we need to set ourselves up for success to still be able to live and thrive. And sometimes we can't make the move or this decision or this change right away. Sometimes we can, but it's allowing yourself to really recognize specifically how you feel in it and honor how you feel in it and recognize that, and don't bury it, don't numb it, don't belittle yourself or make it feel invalid. I can very easily be like, oh, it's not that bad and we can keep doing this and it's good money and da da da. But if it's ultimately, you have to go based off of your heart and how you're feeling. And if how you're feeling isn't resonant with it, then that's just it. That just can be, that can be enough to be like, no, I need to do something different. But you can be in it and know this. And it fucking sucks. So if you're here right now with me, yeah, it does suck. And I'm going to be honest with that. But it can be this really huge launch pad of expansion for something else to be birthed and for something else to be manifested. If we fully decide to close these chapters and saying, this is actually what I don't want, and not make this an option after, such and such time. Maybe you give yourself a end date or a certain amount of time where you're like, okay, I have to figure out my next move by this date, this many months or next year, or give yourself some sort of timeline, and not too short where you have to be really stressed, because sometimes people can, we can we do good under pressure and sometimes not. So whatever feels comfortable enough for you to feel like, okay, this is going to put me on my toes to like make the decision, but not too much to where we feel like in fight or flight and just be like, that's too scary and too much and too intense, because then that will further deepen us into the decisions that we're already in, because our body and our nervous system will like view that as a threat. So it has to be kind of enough of a little bit of a push to make that change. And I think one of the biggest things that I have and will allow myself is like more time and space to just see what drops in. That means more journaling, more meditation for me, more walks in my park and nature, and more like alone time, and more time to just dream of like what I want next for myself. And in this cocoon time, until February, it's this really like energy of completion, even though there isn't anything to be completed right now. I feel like on that energetic level, if we're able to start to close those open gaps that we have, we're able to better see what is next ahead of us. We're able to see the window open because we're like, oh, now we get to look forward because we're not looking back as much, or we're not looking back at all anymore. And and so that's also a saying that tends to be pretty true. So this expansion can happen at any moment in time. Can happen in a conversation, can happen in moments in time alone, can happen in moves, can happen in love, like anything and literally everything can expand us in this moment. And even if you feel like your life right now is like pretty dull or not what you want it to be, or if you're feeling in that like moody seasonal depression, or if you're feeling this kind of like, you're just like trudging through the mud situation, you can look at this chapter to be like, okay, this is my cocoon and I'm going to expand from this moment in time that I don't feel that great about. And it's okay not to feel that great about it. You don't have to love every chapter. That's part of the seasons of life. And it's about honoring the season that you're in and the chapter that you're in. But yeah, so I'm going to be closing some energetic chapters. And the way that I'm going to do that the most is just through ceremony and writing and just releasing and clearing and cutting cords, doing some energy work around all of those things too. And that also means, and what's just like really interesting is that I just finished a journal too. So like now I'm moving on to a new journal. So it's just a lot of like going into new energy and closing old energy, which I mean, in less than 2 months, we have a new year coming up, which is also, can be nerve wracking because you're like, oh my gosh, another year. So even if you start to ponder early on your, not resolutions, but kind of dreams for this next year of what you want to happen, like how can we start to move the energy now for that to happen so it doesn't feel as intense January 1st and you already have this kind of momentum happening. And I think that begins first on really honestly realizing what you need to end, what you need to close, what you need to release, let go of. And that could be physical things too. That can be moving, going through your belongings or clothes or, different things like that. But it can also just be an energetic thing too. Another thing I want to focus on is I'm always like reading a few books at a time. And there's been a few that have been lingering for a long time. And so I'd like to complete those books too. So I'm going to do that also and put that intention in where I'll focus on one book now, complete it, read the end of it, do some takeaways, and I might kind of share different books that I'm reading that have been really powerful for me that I'll share a few things on. But yeah, so that's where the energy is for me here in November. And it's just a lot of raw emotions and just being really honest with where I'm at with myself and on this podcast. And it's a vulnerable thing to really start to begin to be like very, very honest with yourself and not just keep going through the day to day to just, get through it. I don't think my personal opinion is we're not here to get through life or get through the day or get to the weekend. Like, I want to enjoy every single day. And if I'm not loving what I'm doing every single day, then there's something that I need to begin to look at that. Yeah. So that's where I am at. Hopefully this helps the chapter that you're at now. And please reach out to me right now if you feel like you're in this same kind of limbo-ish area. And I'd love to hear what you want to be in your next chapter or what you're finally going to release. So reach out to me on Instagram, and you can always leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube. And I will see you in the next episode. I hope you have an amazing day.